Look at the news. Inequality is still a thing. People in charge still mess up, and the rest of us are still figuring out how to deal with it. Hi, I'm Ridhima. Welcome to The Old Trunk. Today we're deep diving into Lapvona by Ottessa Moshfegh, a book that's been haunting my brain since I turned the last page. If you know Moshfegh from stuff like My Year of Rest and Relaxation or Eileen, you know she's got a thing for the weird and the uncomfortable. Well, with Lapvona, she takes that to a whole new level. With starvation, cruelty, religious manipulation, and a complete disregard for human life, throws it into a medieval blender and hits puree. I'm not going to spoil the story, don't worry. We're keeping this spoiler free. We're just going to talk about my take, and I've got a lot to say about the vibes, the themes, her insane writing style, and why this book is so relevant in 2025. So grab a coffee or something stronger, no judgment, and let's dive in. Okay, so real quick, Lapvona. The book is set in a fictional Eastern European village called Lapvona. During some version of the Middle Ages, post the first wave of the Black Death, but prior to feudalism's demise. Lapvona seems to exist in a vacuum, cut off from its surroundings. It's ruled over by the gluttonous, sadistic ruler named William. William retains his authority over Lapvona's villagers, partly through distance locked away in his high castle, except for rare, carefully orchestrated public appearances, and partly through fear, aided by the village priest, Father Barnabas. And the book's protagonist is 13-year-old Marek, who is disabled and is the son of a shepherd, and has been told that his mother died in childbirth. Oh, and there is a magical wet nurse, Ina, who everybody refers to as a witch. And I'm done telling names and I'm done telling the story any further. As I don't want to spoil it for you, I want you to go as blindly as possible into this book. Moshfegh builds a grim, muddy, filthy, raw world where everyone's struggling and devoid of idealization. There's this heavy, almost suffocating sense of this is how life is. Moshfegh doesn't romanticize anything. No shining knights or Nobel quests here. It's gritty, it's raw, and it feels like a place where hope goes to take a nap. She's not here to give us a history lesson. It's more like a sandbox for her to play with some seriously big ideas. I'm talking power, faith, survival, all the messy stuff that weave through everything and that makes humans, well, human. So let's start with the themes because there's so much going on here under the surface. And I'm still wrapping my head around most of it. One of the biggest things Lapvona digs into is power. Who's got it? Who's crushed by it? And how it twists everything. You've got this stark divide between the people at the top and the ones at the bottom. And it's not just about money or titles, it's deeper, almost primal. The way power works in this book feels so physical. Like it's This heavy thing pressing down on everyone. The ones in charge, they're not noble or wise. They're selfish, cruel, and way too human. And the people under them aren't exactly fighting back. They're just enduring. It's this cycle of control that's so suffocating, and Moshfegh doesn't sugarcoat it. She's like, here's power in its raw form, deal with it. What's wild is how she shows power isn't just top down, it's messy. The little people have their own tiny little scraps of control and they wield them in these petty, desperate ways. They're not exactly saints either. They're just trying to get through the day, sometimes at each other's expense. It's not a revolution, it's survival mode power plays. I kept thinking about how that mirrors real life. How we all grab what we can, even when it's just over our little corners. The way she writes the powerful figures, they're not untouchable. They're pathetic in their own way, which makes it even more unsettling. It's like power doesn't make anyone better, it just amplifies who's already there, good or bad. Honestly, it's one of the most brutal takes on authority I've read in a while. It's this cycle of control and submission that feels relentless. And it made me think a lot about how power dynamics haven't really changed as much as we'd like to think. Like swap out the medieval village for a modern corporation or a government. And it's still kind of the same game. The recent example being the America Ukraine relationship and its effect on the power dynamics between Russia, European countries, and USA. Then there's faith. Oh man, this theme is a roller coaster. Everyone in Lapvona is holding on to something. God, superstitions, whatever gets them through the day. But Moshfegh doesn't make it this pure uplifting thing. Faith here is messy. It's a lifeline, sure, but it's also a blindfold. People lean on it so hard that they ignore the chaos right in front of them. And it's equal parts sad and absurd. There's this dark humor to it too. Like you want to shake them and go, wake up. But you also get why they don't. It's not a sermon against religion or anything. It's more about how we use belief to cope, even when it's delusional. And the delusion part, that's where it gets juicy. Moshfegh shows how faith can twist into something dangerous, how it keeps people in line, or how it's weaponized by the ones on top. But she leaves it open ended, which I love. She's not telling you what to think, she's just laying it out there, raw and unfiltered. I kept flipping back to certain scenes, thinking, is this hope or just denial? It's so layered and it stuck with me because it feels like such a human thing. We all tell ourselves stories to keep going, whether they're true or not. And survival, man, this is the gut punch. Life in Lapvona is brutal, and you feel it on every page. People do what they have to, and it's not always pretty. There's this raw, animalistic energy to how they navigate their world. Like when push comes to shove, what you're willing to do to keep going. It's not about heroism, it's about instinct. And that's where Moshfegh gets under your skin. Because she doesn't judge it. She just shows it. It's like she's asking, what would you do? And honestly, I don't always like the answers I came up with while reading. It's unsettling, but in a way that makes you keep turning the pages. Now let's talk about how she pulls this off, because Moshfegh's writing in Lapvona is unreal. It's so vivid. I'm talking smells, textures, the whole sensory overload. She's got this knack for taking the grossest, most mundane details and making them stick in your head. Not because they're beautiful, but because they're so in your face that makes you want to gag. It's not flowery though, it's blunt and unflinching, which fits the story perfectly. And the tone? It's this weird mix of detached and intimate. Like she's whispering these awful secrets into your ear while sipping tea. I kept thinking, how does she make something so bleak feel so compulsive? It's her pacing too. It's slow in this deliberate way that builds dread. But then she'll hit you with these moments that are so bizarre or shocking that you're like, did that just happen? She's a master at keeping you off balance, and I'm obsessed with it. It's not an easy read, it's heavy, it's dense, but it's also compulsive. I'd be reading and thinking, I need a break. But then I'd keep going on because I had to know what she'd do next. That's Moshfegh's magic right there. So, why does Lapvona feel so relevant in 2025? I mean, it's medieval, but it feels so now. The power stuff I mentioned, look at the news. Inequality is still a thing. People in charge still mess up, and the rest of us are still figuring out how to deal. The faith angle hits too, whether it's religion or just the stories we tell ourselves about the future. We're still wrestling with what to believe in when everything's uncertain. And survival, with climate stuff, economic stress, all that jazz, that instinct to just keep going feels super relevant. While discussing this book with my partner, who I lovingly call SS, after listening to my hour-long ramble about the book, he said that this book nails how people don't revolt even when they should. And I can't stop thinking about that. It's this twisted reflection of how we put up with things today because we're too tired or too scared to flip the table. It's not a cozy parallel, but it's one that sticks with you. Okay, I gotta be real with you guys. I loved Lapvona, but not a love like I wanna hug it. It's more like I'm in awe of it because it's brilliant, but it's also a lot. I'm a sucker for books that don't hold your hand, and this one just drops you in the deep and watches you flail. The themes got me thinking for days, especially the faith and power combo, and the writing is next level. But it's heavy. It's not a beach read or something you pick up when you're already having a bad day. There were moments where I was like, Ottessa, why are you like this? But in a good way. Because she pushes boundaries I didn't even know I had. It's not for everyone. If you need a happy ending or characters to root for, maybe skip it. But if you're into dark, weird, thought-provoking stuff, it's a must read. So that's Lapvona in a nutshell. Or as much as I can tell you without spoiling any of it. It's a book that stuck with me, and I'm still processing it days later. What about you? Have you read it? Did it freak you out? Or did you love the chaos? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear everything. If you enjoyed this review, hit the like button. Subscribe if you haven't already, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next one. I'm thinking maybe something lighter next time, Any suggestions? Leave them in the comments. Catch you in the next one. Until then, stay happy. Thanks for watching. Lots of love. Bye bye.